Ready? Go. Okay, so tonight's Chabura is sponsored by my mother in honor of the Yortzeit today, Chaf Hei Elul, really yesterday. I mean, right? Today is officially Chaf Vav, but we just finished Chaf Hei, so it was my grandfather's Yortzeit. So it should be Le'ili Nishmas, my grandfather Shmuel ben Avram, and it's also sponsored by Sid and Sandy Goldschmidt, wishing the entire Young Israel a Ktivat Tova and a good Gemencht year. And this will be our final shir before the Yamim Tovim. And with that, we begin a sugya of Ktivat Sefer Torah, which is very relevant to the Ki Mitzvah Azos. One of the Rishonim hold that the mitzvah is Torah. Ki Mitzvah Azos Kar Velecha Davar Ma'od. Right, this mitzvah, which according to half the Rishonim is Torah, and also next parsha Vayelach Shabbos Shuva is where the actual mitzvah of Ktivat Sefer Torah is found. The Ata Kisvu Lechem Es Ashira Azos, which is next week's parsha, Parshas Vayelach. It's a very appropriate siyata d'shmaya that we got up to this sugya right now at this juncture. So the Gemara says at the bottom of Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. The Gemara again is discussing all the dinim that are relevant to a melech. Oh, I have to preface. So the last year I was in Eretz Yisrael for. So before I flew back on a Wednesday night, that's why I couldn't give shir. And I went to the kotel right before I left. And I was looking for Rav Nevensal. And I went to Netivarye to see if he was there. And someone there helped me and told me to go to the Ramban Shul. By the way, anyone who hasn't been in the Ramban Shul, it's unbelievable what they did in the Ramban Shul. They redid the entire shul, the Ramban Shul in the Rova. It's gorgeous. So there's a mincha there at the time, like 6:30, where exactly where I was. And they said, Rav Nevensal's in the back. So I figured I'd have to get through like security and all the shamoshim and everything. So I chap Rav Nevensal. I wanted to ask him a shaila in learning, and I just wanted to get a bracha. And it was Wednesday night. Where is Rav Nevensal? He's in the back room. What's he doing? He's preparing for his shir that he gives on Wednesday night. What is he preparing for his shir that he gives on Wednesday nights? Sanhedrin. So like after I saw that, the hashkacha there, and they were on Daf Zayin, so but they'll probably get past us like in 2 weeks. But that was very, very geschmack just to see Wednesday night. Speaking to him Wednesday night, Sanhedrin, Daf Zayin. Okay, great. So fine. So the Gemara says, "Ubovad shelo yisnoe." So what? Okay. So what did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah said, "V'koisev lo sefer Torah lishman." We pointed out that the Rambam pointed out that he has a higher level of chiyuv. Rabbi Zalman said that he has a higher level of chiyuv, bein b'yoyim, bein b'layla, and that he should never be mevatel from Torah. It sounds like the Rabbi Zalman said the chiyuv of the melech in Talmud Torah is above and beyond our chiyuvim in Talmud Torah. Our chiyuv in Talmud Torah is any extra second that we have, we should be learning Torah. But if we have a tzorech or we have something that we need to do, so then there are certain leniencies that we're not chayiv to learn Torah at those times. Rabbi Zalman thought that it seems from the Rambam seems to highlight that there is more of a chiyuv above and beyond our regulations and our obligations of learning Talmud Torah, and it seems like some of the heterim that might exist of not being involved in Talmud Torah would be an Isser Bittul Torah. You'd have a new definition of Bittul Torah for a melech above and beyond a stam person. Fine. So he's Kaisev Sefer Torah to have all the time, Lishmo. And the Mishnah and the Gemara says, this is about, Abe's not here, who's, 7? No.
I was going down.
From the, that's true, okay, good. 7 from the wide lines, okay, good. So the halacha is that you can't benefit, you can't have it, you can't enjoy it from your father, which means don't rely on Yerusha. Don't rely on Yerusha. You got to write your own Sefer Torah. That's what the Gemara says. And Rava says, so Rava says, let them Sefer Torah, mitzvah lichtayv mishalo. Again, so Gemara says, a melech should not enjoy his father's And Rava says that this pertains to everyone. Afal pishin nicholo avos avladim sefer Torah. Rava is commenting on the mitzvah next week's parsha that was an obligation of all of us. V'ata kisvu lechem es ashir azo zakt Rava. Afal pishin nicholo avos avladim sefer Torah. Shaila alacha lemaisa, $50,000 shaila. Your father leaves you in a Yerusha, a sefer Torah, and now you want to know, do I have the mitzvah of ksiva sefer Torah? Says Rava, yes. Mitzvah lichtov mishaloi shenemar, as the pasuk says in next week. V'ata kisvu lachem es ashir azois zakt Rava. There's one way to be mekayim the mitzvah. The kiyum mitzvah is with ksiva sefer Torah. Now there is a debate bizman hazeh. The Rosh has a chiddush. We mentioned this Rosh in the past. The Rosh says, since limud Torah, which the Rosh already makes a leap, no one ever said that the mitzvah of ksiva sefer Torah is linked to the mitzvah of limud Torah. Could be at a juxtaposition in the pasuk ulam del bnei Yisrael, that there is a link to ksiva sefer Torah and limud. So therefore, said the Rosh said bizman hazeh, you could be mekayim the mitzvah with ksiva svara. You could be mekayim the mitzvah with ksiva of books that you learn from. And there's a different diet, it's a little bit of a cheaper mitzvah, bizman hazeh. Happens to be, even though the Rosh said it, there was a machlokes how to understand the Rosh. The Beis Yosef and the Shach have a machlokes whether or not the Rosh was saying this is also involved in the mitzvah, but the fundamental mitzvah stayed, and you should still try to write the Sefer Torah and spend that money, or the Rosh was saying that no, the mitzvah totally changed, and bizman hazeh, since we only learn, and we don't learn through Sefer Torah, the mitzvah totally transformed, and therefore the mitzvah is only done with Sfarim. Fine. But purchasing the Sfarim, yeah. Having these Sfarim to learn from. Good. Well, we'll get to purchasing in a second. You'll see what I'm saying. But possibly. But
It's going to prompt them to write or print more.
It's good. What?
It's going to prompt to write or print more. I don't know if it's the same thing, but more from that are bought, the more they can make, more copies need to be made.
Right. Or the more we're obligating you to write, you have to write yourself. But let's see. What Eitan brought up is going to be a big chunk of today's shir. What about buying? So let's see. It seems from the Pashtus and Rava said Yerusha is not, you're not Yoitze. And Rava said because you need Va'ata Kisvu. So right now I would say Kisvu, means write it. Good. Comes along Abaye and he challenges Rava. There is a girsa change to Rabbah, which might be important. Let's see in a second. Eis ve'Abaye v'koisev loy sefer Torah lishma. You have to write a sefer Torah for him. Shelo yisnoa b'shel acher. That he shouldn't benefit from others. Zok the Gemara, melech in, hedyot lo. Abaye says that's a din that's said by the melech. So what's Abaye's kasha and Rava? Abaye's kasha and Rava is this din is dafka by the melech, mashma, that by everyone else Yerusha works. You don't have to write it. Ksiva lishmo is dafka by the melech, but not by a stam hedyot, and by a hedyot in a chanami. You'd be allowed to inherit it. So what does the Gemara say? And these are the final words of the Gemara. No. That which you think that the Brisa is being exclusive, that the Brisa says that the melech has to write lishmo, and Abaye inferred from that Brisa the melech and not the hedyot, says the Gemara, that's not the implication of the Brisa. The implication of the Brisa is what, says Rashi, Lishtei Soros, Hodeshani Melech Mide Hedyotos. That which we find a distinction between Melech and Hedyotos, that the Brisa highlighted Melech, is not the din of Ksiva versus not Ksiva. It's not a Kasha and Rava. The Ilu Oya Hedyot Sagila Bechada. Umelech Bo Itarti. No, it's a totally different implication. The implication is that a Melech has to write two, and a Hedyot has to write one. But if you want to ask from this Brisa and Rava, there's no Kasha and Rava. Rava's still correct. That one that the Hedyot is Chayav in, he has to write. And he can't be Irish. He can't get off scot-free with just a Yerusha de Memela that he got from his father. So that's the Maskonas HaGemara, at least the way Rashi read the Gemara. Good. So that's the end of the Gemara. If you look at the sheets, do you have an extra sheet? I can get a Gemara. So this is, although it doesn't look like it, I don't even know what it looks like, but this is a picture of a Gemara Menachos with just Rashi. So the Gemara in Menachos says as follows. If you look, you see where the parentheses Simin Saglam. So the Gemara is 4 lines up from that. Amarav Gidol Amarav. Yeah, everyone with me? Amarav Gidol Amarav Halikeach Sefer Torah min Ashuk. Person who buys a Sefer Torah from the market. Kechoiteif mitzvah min Ashuk. Kosvo Malala Kavala Kosav Ki'ilu Kiblo Mehar Sinai. If he writes it, he has the mila of writing it Mehar Sinai. Fine. But what is the din of loikeach, which Eitan brought up before? Rabbi Gildol Marav said, "Loikeach sefer Torah min hashuk, kechoiteif mitzvah min hashuk." Zokt Rashi. What does Rashi say in Menachos? It's Menachos Daf Lamed. Kechoiteif mitzvah min hashuk. It's a very strange language. On the one hand, it sounds like a negative approach, like you're a choitif, you're a gazlan, but you're also being choitif a mitzvah. Had a whole conversation with Rabbi Ram. The Afikomen, right? Did he quote this Gemara? He probably quoted this Gemara, that the stealing of mitzvahs of the Afikomen, this was the Shabbos Hagolah drasha. So is it a positive thing or is it a negative thing? You know, because on the one hand, we're putting it part of the Seder, so you see sometimes gzeila and chatifa, if it's to educate that we want to chaperine and get as many mitzvahs as possible, so maybe it shows, demonstrates to our kids a little bit of zrizus, that it is a good thing, but on the same time, choitiv mitzvah is also at the end of the day, you're a gazan. So Rashi says, choitiv mitzvah, mitzvah of it, avalikasav have a mitzvah yiser tfei. So Rashi approaches this tension, and he says, Yavadi yoytze the mitzvah. The Gemara was never saying you're not yoytze, and for Eitan Shaila, Avadi yoytze zokt Rashi. But it would have been a better mitzvah if you would have written it yourself. That's the... That's the maila of Ki'ilu Kiblo Mehar Sinai. Means there's 2 forms of the mitzvah. I would probably call it mitzvah min amuvchar. Like you have certain times when a person does the mitzvah himself, it's mitzvah min amuvchar. It's a preferable way of being yotze the mitzvah. But at the end of the day, klapei shmaya, if you want to know if you were yotze the mitzvah, you were yotze. B'di'evet. However, you open up a Shulchan Aruch. In the beginning of Hilchos Ktivat Sefer Torah, so the Ramah in the first siman on the mitzvah of Ktivat Sefer Torah, the Ramah says, Sachar loy Sefer, you hired a Sefer lichtal of Sefer Torah, o shekano v'hu ayamuto v'higio. If you did some way of ksiva, even if you didn't do it yourself, but you hired a Sefer, you're yoytzei. Avalokcho kach v'lo higia bodavar, you didn't fix anything. Have kechoiteif mitzvah min hashuk, zok the Ramah ve'eno yoytzei bazeh. Pretty clear, Eitan. The Ramah says choiteif mitzvah min hashuk, and you're not yoytzei. No, you are not yotze the mitzvah of Ktivat Sefer Torah. No, eino yotze b'zeh. That's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is ata kisvul chamesachir azos. Mitzvah is Ktivat Sefer Torah, and you're not yotze. That's what the Ramah said. So the Ramah learned the Gemara in Menachos to say that the only way you're yotze k'choitev mitzvah is no. Tell Rabbi Ram, choitev is chatif is a bad thing. It's not acceptable. That was a negative response to such an individual, and you are not yotze with kniyas svarim Sefer Torah. You're not yotze with that. Zok the bir agra, right there in your Yeridea, the bir agra says, Ayin Rashi kechoitev mitzvah ovid v'ayin taz v'divrei Rashi ikar. Says the Gra. The Ramah is starting up with Rashi and Menachos. Rashi and Menachos said beferish that you were yotze the mitzvah. Maybe it wasn't mitzvah man amuvchar, but avada you were yotze the mitzvah.
Rabbi say, why is this relevant to us? Because l'chayra, the Ramah is right. L'chayra Rashi is a pella. It's against our Gemara. Forget the Gemara Menachos. What happened to the Gemara in Sanhedrin? What did Rava say? Rava said that not only Melech, but when it comes to the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah by a Hedyot, right? Rava said, that's why we came on to the answer of Shtei Seiros. Because by a Hedyot you also can't be Yerush. Because what? V'ata kisvu lachem. So l'chayra, Rashi's against the Gemara in Sanhedrin. L'chayra, the Ramah is right from our Gemara. So one second. So Mark wants to say a teretz for Rashi. For Rashi, right? Mark wants to say that our Gemara spoke about Yerusha. Maybe Yerusha is entirely passive. Now, the problem of Masha Ein Kain, says Mark, since you're putting some skin in the game when it comes to Kinyan, you're actually purchasing it, you're actually putting some money, so that's all that Rava wanted for the mitzvah. Meaning it's not that Rava wanted ksiva, it's that Rava didn't want passivity. Rava didn't want that you should get it, be Yerusha de Memela. But if you actually do some pa'ula, you actually do something, even if it's not technically ksiva, that would be okay. Ha'ara number one, I have the problem with that. In Sefer, it makes sense, and I think some say like that. Mechas Chinuch suggests such a daya. Problem is, first of all, just from the Pashup shot of Rava. Rava's whole raya is because of what? Because the Torah said, V'ata kisvu lechem. Sounds like Rava was contrasting ksiva versus Yerusha, which would mean that Kinyan is out. But maybe not. Maybe ksiva is just, you can taich in Rava like Mark's saying, that ksiva is just to imply that you need a pu'ula, that you can't just be passive. But no. But higia osachas is avada ksiva. That's ata kisvulachem. That's ksiva. Now we're saying a bigger chiddush, that now even a kinyan where you didn't do ksiva, you have to say according to Rashi that wasn't what Rava was coming to negate.
It's the va'ata that he's contrasting.
No, va'ata is now with an ayin. So that's our number one. The Beis Halevi doesn't like Mark's teretz that some achronim were teretz for another reason. He says, I don't understand. He says, I yarshin the Sefer Torah from my father. Eitan came and he wants to be Mekayim in the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, and he buys it from me. Says the Beis Halevi, so now Eitan's yotzei the mitzvah? He says, just not mistaber such a zach. I who am what? That Eitan is bami koichi, and I'm giving him this Sefer Torah. I'm not yotzei the mitzvah from my Sefer Torah, and he now is going to have a schus that I didn't have. How could I be making him have the mitzvah? You can't create a situation that you have the mitzvah.
What about shliach?
But one sec, shliach, shluch shalom nekabosa means when he does a ksiva, the sefer, I heard the ksiva, that's me, that's my ksiva. That's me doing it. There, you won't have to say that. One sec. But then Beis Halevi says another reason why he's against this teretz for Rashi. He says, the Gemara asked a kasha. Eis ve'abaye, melech has to be koisiv lishmo, melech in hedyot lo. See that it's only by a melech, and a hedyot could yarshin, a hedyot, whatever, however you get to Sefer Torah. So what did the Gemara have to answer? Gemara had to answer, no. What the Brisa meant to say was it's for two Sefer Torahs. But avada for one, the hedyot also has to write and can't yarshin. Why couldn't the Gemara answer a better answer? Nothing to do with numbers. Melech only has one Sefer Torah, and Hedyot only has one Sefer Torah. Why do we have to be mechadesh such big chidushim? Says the Beis Halevi, why don't you say much simpler? Melech in Hedyot lo, linyan what? Linyan kinyan. Because for a Hedyot, a kinyan works. And for a Melech, a kinyan doesn't work. Must be, says the Beis Halevi, from the fact that the Gemara didn't opt to answer that there is no answer distinction between Yerusha and kinyan. So once the Beis Halevi is rejecting all of our terutzim to the Gemara, so Lamaisa, we're stuck. So Rashi's against the Gemara in Sanhedrin. So Rashi Menachos, again, The Gemara says, Kechoitev mitzvah min hashuk. Says the Ramah in Shulchan Aruch, what that means is, you're a gazlan. You're a choitev. You're a bad guy. You weren't yoytze to the mitzvah. Lo yotza. Right? Rashi said, no. And the Goin argues on the Ramah. No, kechoitev means you were yoytze to the mitzvah. It's just not the best way. It's not the most preferred way. Preferred way would have been ksiva. But the Gemara in Sanhedrin says, beferish befi rava, that you can't be, that you have to be kaisiv. So comes along the Beis Halevi and says, a fascinating teretz. He says, what do you have to get so lamdish for? He says, you're right. There's a fundamental machlikas, Abaye and Rava. When Abaye attacked Rava, and he says, Melech in, Hedyot lo, Abaye wasn't only asking on his chiddush, Abaye was saying, by the way, and therefore I hold lahalacha, that you could be yotze the mitzvah with what? With Yerusha. You don't need ksiva when it comes to a hedyot. And only a melech needs to be koisev and not a hedyot. So someone comes along the Beis Halevi and says, very pashut. You're forgetting the Gemara. Yeah, Rava had a chiddush, or Rabba had a chiddush. This is why it's important to say Rabba. We'll see in a second. But Abaye disagreed with Rabba, and Abaye holds your biyotze with Yerusha. And the truth is that you see from the Hemshech of the Gemara that there is a fundamental machlokes, even above and beyond Abaye and Rava. If you look later on, we didn't see this Gemara yet, and Mirza Hashem will see it soon. The Gemara goes on to say, V'kosav es Mishnah HaTorah Azos. So how do we understand V'kosav es Mishnah HaTorah Azos? How did the Gemara just say V'kosav es Mishnah HaTorah Azos by Melech? The Gemara introduced that there were two Sefer Torahs. That was according to who? Who was asked a question against him that he needed to come on to that answer? Rava or Rabba, right, the one who was challenged by Abaye. But there's a brisa later on that goes on to explain that the ksav in the Zman of Ezra changed from ksav ivri to our ksav of ksav ashuris. How do you know? Said the Gemara, look at the last line. What does that mean? Because of a Mishnah Torah Hazos, the Gemara later on darshans to be what? Not Miloshon Mishnah as two Torahs, but Miloshon what? Mishnah also comes from the root of what? Shinoi. Ksav HaMishuneh. Ksav that will change. Ksav that will be from Ksav Ashuri, from Ksav Ivri, Hebrew letters to Ksav Ashuris. And that was what the Torah meant in Kosav Las Sefer Mishnah Torah Azos. Could it be that Abaye actually holds, and according to these Tanoim, that maybe a melech doesn't even need to have two Sefer Torahs? Once you darshan that pasuk to mean, because of a Mishnah Torah Azos, to mean something totally different. Ksav HaMishtaneh, maybe there is no maskona of Shtei Seiros. Maybe that only was existing according to Rava's drasha, and Abaye fundamental disagrees, and there are already Tanoim that disagree because they learn Mishnah as Mishuna and not as Shnayim. So what do we have over here? We have a fundamental machlokes between Abaye and Rava, or Rabba, and the machlokes Tanoim had to understand Mishnah, which is the next brisa later on. So comes along the Beis Halevi and he says very pashut. The Gemara in Menachos that made a statement of Rabbi Yehuda Amarav that we have over here. Kechoitev mitzvah min hashuk, that Rashi says, Yatza mitzvah, he was holding like the camp of Abaye. He was holding like the camp of the brisa that goes on to have a different pshat in Mishnah Torah Azos. And there's a machlokes, a major machlokes going on. Not only a major machlokes in the Amoraim, but perhaps emanating from the Tanoim, how you darshan out as Mishnah Torah Azos. So now, this girsa of Rabba and Rava is going to make a big implication. Because if you remember, Rabbi Osai, the Ramah paskin that you're not yoytze comes along the Gra and he says, Ayin Rashi. Rashi says you're yoytze. Rashi Menach says you're yoytze. We ask the kasha, it's against our Gemara. So now, if I am Gores Rava, I'm up the creek. Because I don't want a Rashi and Menachis to be telling me what, Rashi Menachis could be Lo Ali B'Dilchsa. I don't want a Gra in Shulchan Aruch that's paskening halacha like Rashi to be like Abaye over Rava. Because we always know that what? There are only 6 cases that we paskin like Abaye over Rava, and this is not one of them. But once you're Goyres Rabba in the Gemara, and it's a Machloikas Abaye and Rabba, so now Rashi, Rabbi Yehuda Marav, if the Beis Halevi's cheshbon is right, Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Rabbi Gidol Marav in Menachos, Kechoyte Meitzim Menashik that you were Yotze, was going according to Abaye, and Enochanami, yes, Rashi will tell you, I know the Gemara in Sanhedrin. And it's against that first approach in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. But there's a second approach to the Gemara in Sanhedrin, and that's Abaye. You'll ask me, how could I paskin like Abaye? It's Rabbah. It's not Rava. And therefore Abaye could be paskin. And we can support it from earlier Tanaic sources that have a different approach to the Mishnah Torah Zos. And that's the way you'll solve, according to the Gra, these kashas. How could you paskin la halacha if the Beis Halevi's cheshbon is right that this Gemara is going against the first opinion of the Gemara on Chafala from the Beis in Sanhedrin? Good. So Rabbi say that was all the pshat according to Rashi in Sanhedrin and Rashi in Menachos. But now we enter into the Rambam's world and take out the sheet of paper. Says the Rambam, Be'esh yeshev hamelech al kisei malchuso. We pointed out a chiddush from Rav Gershon Zaks. Rav Gershon Zaks says that the mitzvah of writing a Sefer Torah is not when he becomes the king, but when his kingship is completed, and that's only when he sits on the throne. There's a new Hagdara in Malchus, Yeshivas Kisei Malchuso. That's the Rambam's telling us. And Eitan compared it to the sitting of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He only got the chalois of the Lubavitcher Rebbe once he sat down. And we said that was the only thing in common that we can find between Rav Gershon Zaks and the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Okay, Givaldi. Be'esh yashav hamelech al kisei malchus kosov le Sefer Torah. He writes a Sefer Torah l'shmo yesal our Sefer Torah shehinichu lo avosav. In addition to the Sefer Torah that his father left him. Let's read on a little bit more. Magio me Sefer Azara. He has to open up the Sefer Torah in the Azara and copy from it. It's ma'akev. It can't just be from a chumash or something else. Al pi bezdin shel shivim be'echad in front of the bezdin. Im lo hinicha lo avos of Sefer. Osha ibed kosev shnei Sefer Torah. What does the Rambam say? Rambam says Melech has to write two Sefer Torah if he lost the one that his father gave him, or he never wrote it in the first place as a hedyot. Whatever Rabbi say. The Rambam is acknowledging that there's a concept of two Sefer Torah. So how does he read the Gemara? He's against the Gemara. Again, the Gemara asks the kasha. Rava says a regular person, should not inherit a Sefer Torah. Frekt Abaye, it's not true that din of Ksiva is only by a melech and not by a hedyot. I have a brisa that highlights melech and not hedyot. Melech in, hedyot lo. Says the Gemara, no. Elalav. What? What's the Gemara coming to exclude? Eloi tzricha l'shtei saros. So how does the Rambam jive with that? The Rambam says that you don't need to write two Sefer Torah. Again, the Rambam starts off and he says, he had one Sefer Torah that he inherited from his father, and now he became a melech, so he can write one. He suffices with one. Isn't that against the Gemara? Lo tzricha el l'shtei soros? Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Hod deshani melech mi hedyotos, de'ilu hoya hedyot sagile bechada, u'melech bo itarti. Melech bo itarti that what? Melech has to write two Sefer Torahs. When the Brisa said, again, Abaye asked, Esve Abaye v'kosav lo Sefer Torah lishma, shalo yizgav v'shalacher, melech in hedyot lo. A melech has to write, not a hedyot. Said Rava, no. A melech, two Sefer Torahs he has to write. A hedyot only has to write one. So how could the Rambam say that a melech is lesser than a hedyot? The Rambam saying, we bring Yerusha back to life. Rava's not a fan of Yerusha. Rava says Yerusha's out. So how could the Rambam say that as long as he was Yerush, one from his father, it's okay? Yeah, Eitan. Okay. But he has to write that. But he...
It's Yerush from the previous Melech, whatever it is. Isn't that like, that's still works? It's for Yerushalayim purposes.
But how does it jive in the Gemara? I'm asking to you. That works. But he has a Sefer Torah. But Rava says that doesn't work. Rava says Kosev. And that what you're telling me Melech's different, that's Kosev Shtei Soiros. That's what the Brisa says. I'm just trying to jive it into the Gemara. The Rambam reads this Gemara and he totally ignores it. He says, yo, Yerusha's good. But Yerush, no. Rava said you can't even be Yerush, you need two. You have to write two. The Rambam's a Pella.
You just mean the second one needs to be written?
Oh, beautiful. Comes along Rabbi Zalman Meltzer in the Even Elzel. And the Emek Bracha also says the same exact pshat. The Rambam did not learn our Gemara like Rashi. Again, Rashi, the flow of the Gemara goes like this. Rava says, you got to write. Writing, everyone's got to write. Frekt Abaye, no, it's not true. Only a melech has to write. A regular person doesn't have to write. Says the Gemara, according to Rashi, no, a melech has to write two. But a regular person has to write one. That's the way Rashi learned Eloi Tzricha L'Shtei Seres. Comes along Rabbi Zalman, and he says that's not the way the Rambam understood Eloi Tzricha L'Shtei Seres. The Rambam says, it's like Lechem Mishneh. You need to have two chalas. That's the din of a melech. Melech has to be that his Sefer Torah that he writes is a kfelus in Sefer Torah. It's a davar kaful. It's a double. But it's not that he has to write two Sefer Torahs. So what the Gemara was saying, like Tzricha L'Shtei Seres, means it has to be that when the Melech writes his Sefer Torah, it's now a Lechem Mishneh Dika Sefer Torah. It's because of as a Mishnah Torah Zos She'aksav Hazeh Yiyeh Mishneh. It's going to be a double. But not that, says the Rambam, that he has a chiyuv to write both Sefer Torahs. It's just that when he writes his Sefer Torah as Melech, that should be a Miyuchad Dika second Sefer Torah Alts Melech. And it has to be a status of two. A status of two. So that's going to be a different pshat, says Rabbi Zalman, in just the taich of Lo Tzricha L'Shtei Soros. Did that mean, like Rashi said, that you need to write two Sefer Torah? Or did that mean, like the Rambam said, that the Sefer Torah that the Melech writes has to be a Mishneh? Because of its Mishneh Torah, it has to be a matzav of Mishneh, means it has to be the second Sefer Torah, but not that the Melech has to actually write two Sefer Torah, and that's why the Rambam paskin that if the Melech yarshined his first Sefer Torah, that would be good, and that's the only time that Yerusha will really help, because the Rambam will agree that Yerusha won't help when it comes to a regular Sefer Torah papashtas.
If you don't feel Rosh, then he has to write two?
Yeah, that's what the Rambam says. The Rambam says, Im lo yinichalu avos of Sefer Osha Aved Kosav Shnei Sefer Torah. If he doesn't have it, if he doesn't have Yerusha, he's got to write two. Because that's the only way for him to have double trouble. But if you didn't, it's just a hechitimtza, it's just a practicality that I need to have double. But in theory, you didn't need to write two. That's not the nature of the mitzvah. The nature of the mitzvah is not a chiyuv, like Rashi's saying, to write two Sefer Torah. The Rambam understood the mitzvah of Melech is not to write two Sefer Torah, it's to have two Sefer Torahs.
Can you buy the second?
What?
You can buy the second one.
L'chayra, if Mark's right, and l'chayra, everyone would agree to this, if you could be Yairish, and Mark's svara is still a good svara, l'chayra, if you put skin in the game, that's even better. So l'chayra, the Rambam happened to not said it, but l'chayra, I would say that the Melech would be able to buy it. What makes me a little nervous is why the Rambam said he has to write it then. Yes, so why does the Rambam say Im lo yinichlos sefer? Why didn't the Rambam say the option of kinyan? I don't know. Intuitively, I would say, like Mark was saying, kinyan's more than Yerusha. I would say that, but the Rambam should have said that option, and I don't have a teretz to that. So Rabbi say halacha l'maisa comes along the Pischei Tshuva and quotes a chiddush from a sefer on Sanhedrin Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. Pischei Tshuva quotes from the sefer Torah Chaim. Sefer Torah Chaim says, I'll read it to you. Ein Sefer Torah Chaim, shekosef, v'nire, the yochid hakosev Sefer Torah, Rabbi said, this is so halacha l'maisadik. The yochid hakosev Sefer Torah la'atzmo, a guy writes a Sefer Torah, and what? V'nosno labeis hakneses likros bo, and he does a big party. He does a whole achnasa Sefer Torah. He donates the Sefer Torah to the shul. umakdisha nira lav shapir ovid. Kevon shemakdisha harei hi shel hektish v'lav shalohi ve'eno yoytze bo yidei chayvasa. A Teres Chaim that I would never want to quote to anyone donating to the shul.
This happened to me and my father.
Oh,
He donated it,
yeah.
but he didn't donate it to the shul. He gave it to them on loan.
Oh, so that's the
He
eitzah.
had a lawyer write up
Right. The eitzah is this is what everyone does for Sefer there. Everyone gives it to the shul. You know. So what do? You either you let the shul borrow it, but they don't retain ownership on it. I still own it. My shna if I have it in my closet, my shna if I have it in my living room, or my shna if I ask the shul, do you want me to keep it over here, and you have permission to use it. But in terms of hilchos bailus, I keep it. So that's the way things should be done. And if a rav didn't do that and set that up, make sure he doesn't mention this Teres Chaim to the balabas. So that's important. So that's what the Teres Chaim said. Yeah, exactly, right. So where did the Teres Chaim get this from? Nothing we saw on the Gemara said this. So I'll tell you where the Teres Chaim said it, get this from. Teres Chaim said, look at the Rambam. The Rambam says, in the Rambam we just learned, Imlo, in the third line, Imlo yinichu lo yavois of Sefer, oisha avad, koisev shnei sifrei Torah. Right? The Rambam says, if it's gone, then he has to replace it. So comes along the Teres Chaim, and I have a quotation of the Teres Chaim here. They don't quote the whole thing. So says the Teres Chaim. Teres Chaim, the Yochid HaKoyses Sefer Torah la'atzbo, v'nochsel lebeis HaKnesses likros bo b'tzibur makdisha lav shapir avid, kevin shemakdisha areu shel hektish v'lav shelo v'enu yitzir debeit chavaso. The lav b'ksiva l'chud talim milsa, because it's not only about the time that you write it. The Yochid shekosav Sefer Torah v'achar kach nevda, because if a person wrote a Sefer Torah and then the Sefer Torah got lost, pshita shetzarach lichtov lo Sefer Torah acheres. It's pashut, says the Teres Chaim, that he has to write it again. Why? V'hevi rayel is. How does he know that? Maybe I want to argue against the Teres Chaim. I wrote the Sefer Torah, Nebuch, I don't have it anymore, but I was yoytz the mitzvah. V'ata kitzu l'chem es hashir azois. I was kaisif. Says the Teres Chaim, rayel is emi divrei Rambam. Shekosav diminichlo avoso v'nevda, kishenase melech tzirich lichtov beis Sefer Torah. The Rambam says if the melech lost one of his Sifrei Torah, he has to what? He has to write two Sifrei Torah. Oh, comes along the Emek Bracha and he says, once we were machadesh that the Rambam has a different pshat in the Gemara, that the Rambam learns because of his Mishnah Torah Zos, that it has to be a Lechem Mishnah Dika Sefer Torah. It has to be that this is the second one. Savada, the Rambam is the one who's going to say where. When it comes to the Melech, if one of the Sefer Torahs are gone, you have to write two Sefer Torahs. Because it's felt in what? What are you missing? Because of his Mishnah Torah Zos. Bishlam, if you held like Rashi, if it's a Din Ksiva, maybe it's just like a Hedyot. You wrote it, it lost. Who cares? You were Yotzei the mitzvah. You wrote it. The mitzvah was to write. Writing is done. You were Yotzei. Doesn't matter what happens 15 years down the line. Doesn't matter where the Sefer Torah is right now. Maybe you were Yotzei it already. But if you hold like Shitas Rambam, and the Rambam clearly had a different shot in our Gemara of what it means to be Shtei Seiris, that it has to be Lechem Mishnah, it has to be because of his Mishnah Torahs, that the second one that you write has to be a double. So on that, the Rambam says, yeah, if you take a Nevad, now we can't be Mekayim because of his Mishnah. Now it's not double. So now it makes a difference what happens in the future. Because the Melech has an ongoing chiyuv that makes sure that his Sefer Torah is going to be a double one. And if it doesn't happen, that's going to be a second one. Therefore, if it's going to be lost, it's going to be problematic. But Zok De'emek Bracha, but if that's true, and the Rambam only said that by Melech, so maybe the whole Chiddush of the Teres Chaim is not even true. Maybe the whole Chiddush in the Teres Chaim is only if he compares Melech to Hedyot. But if the Rambam might hold that Hedyot that halacha would never apply, it was only limited where the Torah said, Ves Kotzav Es HaMishnah Torah Zos, and by Hedyot it never said, Mishnah Torah Zos, you only have one Sefer Torah to write. So the Memela, the whole Teres Chaim, doesn't get off the ground. The Maisa, like Joe said, the Paiskim are Choshesh, even though we have a Yishuv, the Paiskim are Choshesh for the Teres Chaim. And therefore, the poskim suggest that the Eitzah, what they should do is that they should put it on loan, and they should make sure that he retains his ownership, just in case the Teres Chaim's shita is correct. It's a very, you want to make sure that you're doing everything kedasu kedin, according to all shitas. But l'chayra, the Emek Brachas Lumdis makes sense within the Shachavatari and the Gemara, and if that would be the case, then there is no raya. The whole foundation of the Teres Chaim, which was based on the Rambam, doesn't hold true according to the way we cheshbon out the Gemara, that the Rambam is not like shitas Rashi.
The Rambam's poor Mark said, because if Nevad is enough, if Nevad means that you no longer, it wasn't yours, then the guy who finds the Torah, you're Yorish.
Right.
So now it's mine. It was never his. Meaning, so now is that on me? Obviously, the Ksiva was done already.
Again, you were Nevad,
And person B now is Yorish or finds or whatever.
but the Rambam never told us whether person B is Yotze. That was the first shot.
Meaning, once you're Nevad, if that's going to be, then now you lost that on the Kisvu, so then obviously the Ksiva was done, but now whoever the Yorish is, does he then take that on because it's his Torah and belongs to him, etc., etc.
That would be totally on Rav and Abai. It would be totally on Yerusha. Meaning, if you hold Yerusha works. If you hold Yerusha works.
You automatically hold it kind of in the way Yerusha works.
Why?
According to that Alpha.
Rambam's
Never works than Yerusha.
no, never worked. Never works to make the Melech not be Yotze.
Exactly. So then, but it shouldn't be inverse.
No, let's say the Melech was mafkir. It's an hefker. No one was zeichid it.
Right.
He's not Yotze's mitzvah. Just by the fact that it's not owned by the Melech, that already is goyim that he doesn't have the mitzvah.